Healthy Business Connect Us empowers families to thrive through holistic well-being, early child development, and accessible healthcare.
We are committed to fostering connections, knowledge sharing, and support networks that enhance the physical, mental, and emotional health of children, parents, and caregivers.
By building bridges between healthcare providers, social services organizations, educators, and families,
we aspire to create a world where every child experiences a healthy and nurturing start.
Setting the foundation for a brighter future.
I'm Brian Moore. I'm the lead of that. Just announced officially that we have Spanish language interpretation available. Try again, right back to family needs Spanish interpretation. Please see Hank and he'll be able to help you. And we also have ASL interpretation available. So just to try, we're working to make this as successful as we can. We'll get started in just a second. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? Is the microphone better? It's kind of getting dark. Thank you so much for coming out to Elefa's first quarterly public meeting to be able to meet with you all. For those of you who may not know who I am Sharice Stewart, early monitor from Elefa, effective law enforcement for all. We'll go through our slides, but I just want to introduce a few of my colleagues that are here with me tonight. This is Brian Ford, your deputy monitor.
Good evening. Brian Ford, Deputy Monitor. I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm very glad to be part of this meeting, working with Elefa to help you with community commitment. And my background very briefly is I spent 17 years working in municipal government, where part of my responsibility is oversight of our local partners. And I've also worked nationally with the National Association of City Oversight Law Enforcement. So that's the background that I bring to our university.
And our policy lead guru, please with me.
Hello everyone, good to meet you. Is it hard to hear us? Should we be talking really loudly in this microphone? All right, note to everyone, talk really loudly. Okay, very good to be here. My name is Lisa Fink. What am I supposed to call you? As Sharice said, used to be my deputy police commissioner, and so I'm still having a hard time calling her Sharice. I am the lead on the strategic policy review. I'm also working on the sexual assault and domestic violence investigation section of the community commitment. And I've had the opportunity to work on police policy directly since 2017 and work with some other departments under different versions of police reform and collaborative reform. So I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And we have another team member that will be joining us. And once he arrives, I will pause and introduce him. So you will see him on the slide. I just want you to, because they're in the room, put faces to names. It's difficult to see a person on a picture. It's like, well, I don't know who that is. My picture doesn't necessarily look like me. So I just want to make sure that as you see us around town, outside of these meetings, you'll come to know who we are and what we stand for and why we are here. So here's the beauty of technology and advancement. I'm so appreciative that we're inside of this community center and appreciate everyone. Okay. Okay, I can wait. All right. Okay. All right. Well, we're high tech. We're high tech in there. We want to acknowledge Miss Yolanda's sacrifice. And she might be out there at the desk, but one of the things that always keeps us encouraged as we go around the city, getting to know people, is getting to know who are the key stakeholders. Not titles, not all of the overtures of roles, but who are the people every single day that's holding community together when no one else is watching and no one else knows. So I just want to acknowledge Ms. Yolanda, Ms. Yo-Yo. If you did not meet her or see her or greet her. The young lady that works here at the community center that waved hello when she came in, and she's the one that's been saying to us. So if you don't get if you get the opportunity before you leave, just say hello. Her sacrifice to community and to our young people, I didn't want it to just go by as blaze because we're in the house. And we want to acknowledge her sacrifice day in and day out. So thank you for that. I want to also acknowledge the fact that, so before we started this process, we didn't know who everyone was. So we came into the town trying to introduce ourselves, and we put ourselves in the mud. So I'm going to have our council person just stand up and then wave hello. That's right, I'm putting you on the spot. And you sit right here, and I'm going to move around the room and just wave. Because I want to acknowledge your presence, the sacrifice. And if you're representing any office that's here tonight, because everyone doesn't know who everyone is in the room, just like we're introducing ourselves. And I wanted to just take a minute and introduce our elected officials and appointed officials that are in the room. And we'll start on this side of the room and work our way around. Please don't make me call you out. I appreciate you.
Councilman Ken Herndon, District 4, budget year District 2.
Thank you so much. Any others on this side?
I am Mitra Sweden and I am running for state representative for District 30. So this is my district. I am here report.
Okay, that's a little different. Anybody that is currently holding office and that is or representing office, clear here. Okay, thank you so much.
Hello everybody, I'm Betsy Murray. I represent Metro Council District 21, which includes Preston Highway, Dearborn Fairgrounds, and Richmond and Southern Parkway. And I'm glad to be here with you for the rest of the
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Councilwoman.
District 1, Councilman Tammy Hawkins.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's right. And so, saving the best for last, Councilwoman Shankly. I don't know if you heard her back in her soft voice. This is her district. We are in our house. And while we're over here, she had a meeting going across the way. So thank you for your grace with this opportunity to come over to the meeting, recognize that you have your meeting. So please, I just want to acknowledge that we miss anyone.
Joni Jenkins, representing Congressman Morgan McGarvey.
Thank you so much, Ms. Joni, for sitting in for Congressman McGarvey. So we're going to get started with our presentation. So thank you all of the community members that are here represented tonight. I'll do my best to keep my voice up as we go through this slide. This is high tech. Who we are. We're the members of, so thank you for helping make this possible. Members of the Louisville Community Newburgh Community Center and the staff of Louisville Park and Recreation under the office of the mayor, Mr. Hank Enright, our Spanish-speaking interpretation and our ASL interpretation. Thank you so much for being here and allowing us to be in your space. Here is our agenda for the evening. We're going to go over our agenda, the objectives. We're going to cover who we are and our role, the Elefa Louisville team, and how do we measure compliance and policies. We're going to do some updates and a Q&A. I'm reading it because I know some may be a little further back from the screen, otherwise I would not read it. I know that you just read, but I don't want to assume that everyone a little further back from the screen can see all of the fine print. My clicker. So most people have asked us the question, when are we going to see something? What are you doing? So we recognize several things. We recognize that you all have been going through a process, various processes for some measure of time. We are not the Department of Justice. That is not who we are. We are the independent monitor. So we have this slide included to be able to say what it is that the independent monitor that are our objectives and what we look for. LMPD's progress in our activities up to date. So we have been in the foundational portion of this relationship. So when you're reading the community commitment, just bring this kind of all up. Thank you. When you're looking at the community commitment, commitment, there's some requirements in the first roughly 3 to 6 months of this process. And I'm trying to kind of give the gains of time that we're required to do. That's paragraphs, going from paragraphs 14 down to 40. That included an implementation plan, monitoring protocols, and so on and so forth. And that's the foundational work that we have been doing in partnership with LMPD and LMG, is laying the foundation as to what we can expect to receive and provide to one another in our roles in terms of communication. We have been reviewing how we review as monitors our reports. Go to the next slide. And engaging, answering your questions and your comments. Our first was here in December. For those that were with us in the room in December, thank you for coming back tonight. We received questions and feedback, and more of the questions have been, what are you doing and when will we see something? When will we see what you're doing? There's a process that starts from, our role, my apologies. Louisville Metro will select an independent monitor to assess the process, assess and report on Louisville Metro and LMPD's progress for implementing the requirements of the agreement. That's the community commitment, paragraph 19. Second bullet point, Louisville Metro and LMPD's progress toward compliance will be determined through compliance assessment. Community commitment, paragraph 29. I know people are taking pictures. We will put this presentation up on our website and if not the end of the night, first thing in the morning, we'll have it available if you want to view it and share it and have more conversation. So don't feel required to take pictures. Policy, training, audit, data, and report reviews. Community commitment, paragraphs 31 to 35. And within the first 2 months of assuming duties as monitor, the monitor in conjunction with Louisville Metro will develop monitoring protocols. Community commitment, paragraph 40. And here you see the role, our role, is to coach, report, and monitor. Coaching is important. I want to anchor the coaching, and we're not the chief. You have a chief. That is not why we're here. We're here to support the team of the chief and his office in terms of their role and the work that they're doing. Similarly so with the Louisville Metro government in terms of what we know and our expertise as a team around transformational change and reform. And again, here's the slide of who we are. There are 12 members of our team. We featured some of those key members on the slide, and we're also sharing on the slide the depth of expertise that we bring to the team. This team, unlike others, we have a swath of different types of team members. We're not just heavy-laden with former police or uniform members, or sworn members. We also have professional members of the team that have experience in things like fairness, partial enforcement, recruiting and hiring, data-driven best practices, community engagement, and policy and Spanish language liaison, and behavioral health and disabilities. So there is a cadre of expertise and knowledge that we bring as a body and as a team. When you heard me speak about the foundation that we had to lay in for and that we're in the process of, that foundation starts at the very bottom of the pyramid, and my body is kind of right in the way. So I'm going to read the bottom of the pyramid. The foundation consists of revisions to policy and training, to advance a culture of accountability, to ensure technology and data systems are capable, to improve officer wellness and working conditions, and to improve officer performance based on new standards. That is the foundational work that we've been engaged in thus far through a matter of first starting with policy review. The second layer is evaluation. We are not yet there. The second layer of our pyramid is through evaluation, audits, and inspections, community feedback and input, monitoring team evaluations. We are not yet there, but that is the second layer of the pyramid, because we're starting at the foundation. And where we all know we want to be is compliance determination. When I say compliance, I'm not just using the word, because I want to be able to make it clear to both the audience, the far the audience in the room. Compliance is what you all have asked for, which is the content of the community commitment, which is the summation of transformational change. You want things to be better than they've been. You do not want to have this repeat of the history and the experiences that have been shared across the meetings and through the generations. Ultimately, that is what you're saying you want. So when you hear me say things like compliance determination, I don't want to glaze over what we are ultimately saying when we use these words. We recognize what you're wanting, and that comes as a result of compliance. I said a whole lot of the slides. I introduced who we are, our agenda, and how we're starting and what we're coming here to do. I'll pause very briefly because I want to hear to this point, do I have any questions from anyone in the audience? It's a tough crowd tonight. It's serious business. It's serious faces. But I often look for the exchange because I don't want anyone to get up from this conversation and say, I don't understand. Because ultimately, what you all are ambassadors for your communities, for your neighborhoods, for your cities. You're ambassadors. So if you don't understand it, and if you go to share that you were present and you had some interaction, engagement, and conversation, then it's going to be hard to share the news or hard to inform us. So I want to make sure that when we separate from one another, that we at least get up with a shared understanding and that you can help transfer content. If you want to say something. Who hired us? Fair enough. So this was a process that was embarked upon with RFPs, request for proposal. The city, Louisville Metro Government, the mayor's office, Louisville Metro Government got a request for proposal. We went into that RFP process. It was Elefa and other groups. I only know who the one other group is because the one other group is met us here, and I want to say it was September, August or September. We came in person and we sat side by side with that other group. And then, from what I understand, it was a decision made. When I saw the announcement, it said, Louisville, we've heard you all have decided. So I don't know how that statement shapes up. I can just repeat it. Right? Louisville, we've heard you all have decided. When Mayor Greenberg announced who would be the independent monitor, he shared that via social media, the news outlets. I saw the social media reel of it. And it stated Louisville decided, and your independent monitor, our independent monitor, will be Elefa, effective law enforcement for all. Because we had a listening session, I have clipped out of this slideshow presentation some of that fundamental conversation that we had. Happy, welcome to repeat it, because what I don't want anyone to do is not conclude you're not doing it. So in responding back, we respond back to the citizens. That's why we have these quarterly meetings. We tell them what we do. We respond back to the mayor's office. And we also respond to council as they make any requests and information. So our response is a swamp of the body. The mayor's office, the citizens, because we are required to have quarterly meetings to tell you what we are doing. When we are paid for our services, that is on our website. It is not designed to be secretive. There's some things that, in terms of methodology, you'll see that or know that. So none of this process is designed to be secret. That's why we're having these open meetings so that we can discuss with you what we know, what we've seen, what we've experienced. So we're reporting out. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the commission. Once he stood up, I saw that the commission.
And maybe if you feel like first 2 months, you all are supposed to develop the and start working on the implementation plan. Where are we on that implementation plan? Will we see that? What are the things that
Oh no.
I'm having contact issues, my apologies. So we had, I said this when we were at the Community Safety Commission, and everyone did not hear the question. Thank you so much, Lauren. Where are we with the implementation plan? So the implementation plan and the monitoring protocols were two things that are due out to the public. Those two things will go up on the public on our website, available for review. And we were asked, what, I do not want to improve the pronunciation of your name. Congo asked the question, where are we in that process? So we have received the implementation plan, and we have now provided the implementation plan response. So we're waiting for it to be approved, that everyone agrees. So the full processing is almost complete. So we received it, we responded, and we provided that signed letter of response. So we're required to have a meeting with all the parties to say it is accepted, for then it to go up. Same so, we have a date to accept the monitoring protocols. So that is a date in the month of February. And then that should go up now. There has been a level of sharing perspective over the two documents. There is a true endeavor to get this as good as possible. Because I don't want to use the word right. The other contrary is wrong. As good as possible for public consumption. Recognizing that this is the first year plan. Our implementation plan is required annually. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir. If you don't mind, do you mind standing and interjecting? I will read a question.
Right. My name is Sam. I'm looking at this as encouraging. I'm not sure if this is the right place for this question, but I'll put it out there. The revision to policy and training. And having excellent policy in place is important. Having training in place is important. But I think the most difficult part, in my experience, is having policy that's been developed and having training that is embraceable by the people you're training, embraced by them, and then seeing them implement that. What if you have anything along the lines of ensuring that your policy is well made, the training is well done, but also the people being trained are receiving and able to receive it and get out there.
That is an excellent question, so I'll summarize, so I don't want to miss any points. The question is, encouragement that you see the process of good policy, training, but how will we ensure as Elefa, as the independent monitoring, that the policy is solid, the training is solid, that it indeed produces the results of the outcomes that we're expecting, and that the officers are taking to the policy and the training change. Is that about right? Yes. Excellent. So I did not say why we were here when we were here in January. LMPD, Chief Humphrey invited Elefa to sit in on their first, so every year your training, your police department goes through annual training. Do you know that? Okay, so your police department goes through annual training every year, and we came to sit in to observe some of that training. So that's one of the ways. So ultimately, policies in terms of revision, Elefa participates in that process. It is a collaborative process of policy review. That is why we'll get to Lisa in terms of her. She'll explain more about policy and what's sought after in policy revision. Likewise, with training, there is in the community commitment itself what we look for, what's expected and needed in the training review process. So it's a formal process that involves for training review to ensure that it lines up to all of the requirements to ensure that it is good, solid training. And then going forward to the next step, we look for monitoring. Do you see results of change? And there are various streams of evaluation when you're trying to see if training is holding up when it's executed outside of the house, outside of the police department. So I'll choose an example. Because I can't say that it's not one size fits all in terms of policy, training, and its execution that you'll see results. One of the things, and I'll just use something like investigations. I'll just use general investigations. So if there's an investigation, we'll first look at the policy. Is the investigation policy a good policy? Does it take into account every single step that's needed for an investigation? Then go over to training. Is the training supportive of the policy? Is everything that is needed to ensure that the investigations, that anything that needs to change, the training supports that? And then the outcome would be better results in the investigation and the better outcomes, less complaints perhaps from victims, better clearance rate, you're getting some level of outcome or participation. So there's varying different degrees in an investigation that you can look for to see, do these things line up? Does this make sense? And I'm just abstractly grabbing it up, for instance, to try to give an example to make it make sense. That there should be some quantitative evidence that we can all, when I say all, I mean Elefa, that Elefa can see, and in many instances the community can see something here is different. Like for instance, procedural justice. Procedural justice is the cornerstone of the fabric of every good society. Is that you are who you are, you will do what you say, and you will treat individuals in the community the way you're supposed to, and you will do that which you're only supposed to do. Procedural justice. Everyone has voice, everyone's heard, seen, and respected. And if you don't have this procedural justice, you will see outcomes from that. You'll hear complaints about that. I didn't know why I was stopped. The officer didn't tell me their name. I was unduly detained. I don't know why. So as procedural justice improves, the officers just introduce themselves, say why they might have been stopped and detained. It should not be any undue length of time. And there should be a resolve at the end. You might not like the result at the end, but you understand how we got to the end result. Does that help answer your question? Okay, was I clear, everybody? Thank you. Any more questions to them? Yes, ma'am. That's a really good question. Lauren Waddell asked, what are the methodology? What are we looking to see? The methodology is different based on what it is that we're looking at. So that is again a question of no one size fits all, just depends on what the item is. So we established the methodology. That is another reason why when we saw the slide, we have Dr. Laura Whitehall, well-established, well-known scientist of data. So we established methodology on what it is we're looking at, looking through, and looking for the data, looking for the outcomes to measure those. Yes. And I hope that answers your question. Absolutely, absolutely. I hope I can get the air out of that. So there's a whole through-line process where you look ultimately to measure something. So you don't wait till you get the outcome and then decide how you measure. You look at the beginning. You start with the policy. You're reading the policy. You're looking at training, and from that you develop a methodology to data. This is how we're to measure the outcomes of this thing. I know we have some other data scientists in the room, and I'm not a data scientist, so I try to stay in my lane. I just want to make sure I kind of capture the process. And we will go to the next slide if you don't have any more questions. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe I'm wrong, but is this even concerning how making policies, implementing policies with the police department? I had some concerns about my neighborhood, my street, and so this is the meeting to state line up, not plowed, not in the snow. And
So this is the Independent Monitors Quarterly meeting. Right across the street in the library was Councilwoman Barbara Shanklin's meeting. I'm sorry.
she just said, you said you came home.
She had a community meeting.
Pardon?
Ms. Barbara had her community meeting at the library.
So this is the community meeting.
This is the community commitment meeting.
Well, where was the community meeting?
It was at the library.
That's what I thought you said. She said the meeting. Where are we finding out about this community? We've got a lot of community problems going on that need to be, and we're not made aware of it.
So my Councilwoman Shanklin is right there in front of you. And so if you want to voice your concerns, if you don't mind waiting and joining us, then she'll be able to better assist you.
Okay, I just want to know when the meetings are.
So the meeting was today.
We've not been informed.
It's the third Tuesday of each month.
And where?
At the library, right across the street.
Tuesday. We've got a lot of things going on.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
No worries. Listen, we all have to be in support of one another. Any other questions? We'll go to the next line. Yes, and I'm going to turn this portion of the meeting over to Lisa.
All right, please just yell at me if you can't hear me or can't signal or something. So again, my name is Lisa Fig. I am the policy lead on the Elefa team. I just briefly wanted to talk to you all about the process that we go through when we are reviewing policies. So first and foremost, it's important to know that the community commitment provides some pretty explicit instruction on how the independent monitor is expected to conduct their policy review. Explicitly it says we are to look to see whether the community commitment requirements are incorporated into policies. And similar to the question about the outcome measures, I am also not a data person, so I do not want to, misstate anything about data, but ultimately the requirements of the community commitment are what we are looking to assess in the various rounds, whether it's a policy review, a training review, or ultimately the compliance assessments that our team is going to be tasked with doing. So there is going to be a very specific methodology for each section based on what are those specific requirements, and then how do we establish whether or not a community is actually doing it, right? So when it comes to policy review, which as Sheree was saying is often and almost always the first step of this progressive process for implementing the community commitment. So in this instance, as you kind of saw the pictures of members of our team, we have a pretty diverse set of knowledge and experience that we do bring to the work. Some of us have been a part of writing policies for police departments. Some of us have been a part of implementing policies for police departments. Some of us have been a part of holding police officers accountable for policies, but both internally as well as externally from a civilian oversight role. And some of us have also served on teams that have monitored compliance with other similar agreements, whether they be consent decrees or state settlement agreements. So we do bring a diversity experience that we really try to apply when we look at when we receive a policy to review. So ultimately, the very first thing is what paragraph 31 says, where it tells us what a policy review is. We are to establish whether or not the policy incorporates all of the requirements in the agreement. So we review that section of the agreement, and then it's really a tedious project of going between the paragraph, between the policies, and trying to see if we are convinced that the language that was incorporated into the policy actually does comply with the meaning and the spirit of the requirements of the agreement. So that is truly the most basic aspect of the policy review. But then we have some other really important things, lenses that we use to look at these policies. One is, Are these things clear? Will a police officer read this and understand what they are expected to do and what they are expected to not do? Is there confusion in the language? Or is there the ability that maybe Officer Smith reads it and interprets it like that, but Officer Jackson reads it and interprets it another way? So we do feel it's really important that these policies are clear and executable, that they're actually implementable. Because of course, you can sit in a room, write a policy, and have great ideas, but is it going to work on the ground? So that's part of the perspective that we use to assess policy. Does it meaningfully consider public feedback? The community commitment has a requirement that LMPD post for both public and internal LMPD feedback every policy that is under the jurisdiction of the community commitment. So that means they are to post it online and offer folks the opportunity to read the policy and let them know let the LMPD know what y'all think. Some people find it fun to spend their spare time reading policies, others don't. So to those that do, we are thankful for that, and they have the opportunity to do that on every policy that is covered under the community commitment. It can be individuals, it can also be, groups, advocacy groups that decide, hey, we want to make sure that we're getting in on these policy reviews. And officers as well have the opportunity to opine. And part of what LMP is required to do per the community commitment is receive public comment and consider it. It doesn't say in the community commitment that they have to take it all, but they absolutely have to consider it. And then when they do submit a policy to us for a formal compliance review, they also have to submit to us the feedback that they received, so we can see, okay, what did the public say, and did they apply it, how did they apply it, etc. Also, does it align with the principles? So there's various parts of the community commitment in particular sections that talk about certain principles that undergird this entire process, right? Things like procedural justice, as Sheree was talking about, fair and impartial policing, de-escalation, accountability. So that's part of the lens that we're using when we're reviewing these policies. Do they allow for consistent and fair accountability? Do these support the department that is prioritizing procedural justice? And then lastly, whether it reflects best practices or model practices that various departments or that national research kind of holds up as, departments or policing is really moving toward these types of practices as opposed to that. So that can be through research documents, model policies, and many of us, because of our diverse experience, have also had the opportunity to be exposed to, things that kind of on the national scale, what the profession is moving toward when it comes to reforming and updating these practices for these times. So these are just the different lenses that I want to let you all know. The work that we do is not exciting. It's not much to see or get too excited about, but it is really important that we kind of use all of this framing when we do this review for policy. So that is pretty much what I got to say. Are there any questions about that? Yes, sir.
Can you refer the group to how they can access what is the community commitment? You keep using that term, where can they go?
The actual document? So I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you Google Louisville Community Commitment, I would assume it's either the first or second result. It's a pretty massive document that the city adopted as its commitment to the public of how it was going to implement the reforms that it had been negotiating with before. So I would assume Googling Louisville Community Commitment will get you there pretty quickly. And I know it's on the Louisville City Government website, I just don't know the whole process. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. I think there is it's a delicate position that you're in to really mediate between the public or the publics and, the Louisville Metro government, specifically LMP. That said, I all know this. And given the departure, all of the other attorneys that were working with us are leaving. So, we had a lot of delays before we came. So could you just, without, going out on them too much, could you possibly summarize where you're seeing the most resistance or anticipating such resistance? Because even like in the December meeting and now, I think for those of us, and especially those of us who are not being people of color, who are in populations that have really experienced police brutality, there's just a lot of mistrust. And so you're getting some of that. I understand that. And you're navigating it with great grace. But could you talk a little bit about the resistance that you either anticipate or are putting on the other end?
Well, that turning to all right, I've gotten to talk quite as much, and so I'll try to take this on and let my colleagues add in. This is work that coming out of civilian oversight background. It's really. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I was trying to summarize very briefly. Thank you so much. That's what I'm talking about. The people do is where in these early parts of this process are we seeing or do we anticipate resistance to change, resistance to doing things differently, resistance to whether we need to commit to that is there. So I think it's still framing. Having done this work on a national basis of my own, there are a couple different levels. I mean, sometimes there is resistance to specific changes. We've always done it this way. We're not that other community. This is what works here. Or we have a certain type of way that we have a community because of state law, because of culture. And that can be very real, but that can also be a form of resistance. The other type of resistance that we generally see is that people just don't understand what it means to do things differently. And not in kind of a simple way, or like, I don't know what those words mean, but there's a way in which people train, there's a way in which departments work, there's a way in which governmental systems work. And this isn't just policing, but any kind of system is resistant to change. And I would say, to try to be more specific, in total so far, it is early days, and I don't want to say anything like out of turn, but I would say whatever you would characterize as resistance at this point is really the friction of trying to figure this out. We're still, I never consider this norming, forming, storming. We're still in that stage where we're getting to know each other, where we're getting to understand who we are as human beings, but also what our roles are. This is not a consent decree. It's a commitment by local central government and the police department and Metro State, other parts of the community to make change. But it's something that no one else has quite done before. So we've got a lot to figure out. And in fact, Lisa today spent the entire day doing work with policy folks at the police department, because we had lots of Zoom or Microsoft Teams or WebEx meetings, and they're good and they're helpful and you email, but at the end of the day, you have to sit with people, you have to work with people. And so I think right now what we're just trying to figure out is like, how do we work together? What do we mean when we say things? When we ask for something, what are our expectations? And then going back to the community commitment. The paragraph says this, and it seems like it's very clear, right? But we all know that any document, whether you're a lawyer or just a regular old person like me, you need a document, and it means different things. So we actually have to sit down and figure out sometimes what we need to get done. So it's, I guess that it's not there, but that pyramid, where the bottom of the pyramid is so big, that's kind of where we are. So it's the challenge of how do we work together, what do we need and want, how do we understand each other, and then as we do that, we will start to run into actual disagreements. So then we might start to see a different kind of relationship. But right now, it really has been that effort of figuring out what do we need, how do we do it, who are we as people, and how do we understand each other when we're going to be together. Got someone. That bottom part takes a lot of time. Louisville, this is for the community commitment. LouisvilleKY.gov.
Office of Equity has a whole page.
The Office of Equity has a whole page on the community
Go to
center.
the LouisvilleKentucky.gov page and then put in Office of Equity, you'll find the whole page.
Okay, because that's sort of, there's a page at LMPD as well, but that would be the place it was. The Office of Equity at Louisville Central Government. All right. Oh, I'm going to get to stay up this. Okay. Thank you, Sheree. So, as we get to right before we get to Q&A, we want to just spend a little time saying what we have done. Because people, rightfully so, right? We've been here a few months. This process has gone on for a few years. Louisville has been living with these issues for at least a couple hundred years. We all know. So what do we do? So I'm going to frame this again by saying, on the one hand, we're months into this process. On the other hand, we're brand new. So right here, we saw that thing about the pyramid. So there's a lot of foundation work that's been going on. And as I guess I kind of just said, a lot of this building relationships. So the last time I was here, not me, different sets of rules. Sharia said we contracted and changed and who comes for each visit. In December, we attended the Bishop's Table. Now, I personally heard about the Bishop's Table when I first knew that we might be able to compete during the deadline. And it was a really great opportunity for us to see something very different from what you see the Louisville Medical Government meeting, or even the standard community. We just had the opportunity to merge before we got here with Klaus, Community Safety and Equity. We were so happy that Reverend Johnson and Rabbi Slosser were able to help convene that so we could listen and hear and really learn. A lot of we had sort of heard about the other reasons, but to really hear and learn about the work that Klaus is doing as an important set of stakeholders in the community that really brings people from all backgrounds, from all faiths, to have an impact on the community, to make sure that people in government, elected officials, appointed officials are hearing, and not just hearing opinions, but hearing what their process is asked. Those elected and appointed people who are out. So we will continue that engagement, and we also look forward to working with other faith communities, other kinds of communities. We met with that community, and it was incredibly helpful to us. We have regular meetings as part of our process with leadership at the Louisville Medical Police Department and the Louisville Mayor's Office and the local government, with the Inspector General. I hate to start naming people because I don't forget people, and there are people we haven't met with yet. So one of the things we want to hear is who else should we meet with? So be thinking about, should we meet with you? Should we meet with the group you know? Should we meet with others that we have not engaged with yet? We also, again, as Cherie said, people from our team had the opportunity to come here last month to observe the in-service training. And one of the things that we do in our role is technical assistance. So with all our subject matter experts and people with different backgrounds, we need to come in not just to go through the formal compliance review, but also to lend our wisdom, our experience, our external perspective to how things might be done differently. So part of that in-service training was to get feedback, and then also to help us as we do our work over this period, as we go up that pyramid, to be able to offer opinions and then properly assess, is the training compliant with policy? Is the training being delivered well? Are the people out there in the streets doing the work actually getting the benefit of that training? I see the questions.
Yes, I have a question. I see what number 2 says, that you all, where it says our work so far, it says that you met with community safety and equity committee. Just a suggestion, you don't think that you should be with public safety because community safety and equity committee, they don't really cover anything that has to do works in the mission station? What's going to be the tools to teach the child that, so you're leading out those tools?
Okay, thank you. So let me try to capture the councilman's question, which is when we met with class leadership, the Community Safety Integrity Commission, and Bishop's table, what led us to choose those people, and how do we continue to, like, what tools do we have to be able to have those meetings to do them well?
No, what I'm asking is, what led you to lead with this? Because if I feel like that community is to lead.
Right.
So I'm curious on how did you get this? You know, of course, we go to the bishop's table, you know, they talk about updates, things that's going on in the community. You know, as far as cloud, I'm not really, you know, sure what would be the reason that you're leaving with them for. And then as far as community safety and equity committee, I'm on that committee. That committee doesn't cover anything that has to do with public safety or LME, things like that. So that's why I'm asking, so, you know, so some of those things on that list, can you get some of those tools that you would need from the community? And that's why I asked you, this list right here, where did you get that list from? Who gave you that list to go off of? Because for me, I don't think it would be effective to give you the tools that you need to be successful on the things that you are hurting. It's kind of working. And if we need to revisit that, that's fine. So y'all can carry on. We can revisit that.
Okay, I'm not going to try to recapture all of that, but I guess I'm going to try to say, for example, we could hear the question of how did we choose to get this list of people to meet with, and how can we be going to the community to find out who we need to meet with and do that effectively so we can do our work. That's not.
I think the first one is how you get
Yeah, so let me just answer that. So those lists of people, the first two, because we were invited repeatedly by the bishop to go to the bishop's table, and we were in town that Friday morning before we left. So we went, and and then in terms of the clout, let me say, so that's specifically Clout's leadership in Clout's community safety and equity committee. That's not the community safety and equity committee of Louisville Metro Council. That was specifically the community safety and equity committee of Clout. So they had reached out to us and asked if they could meet with us. So we met with them virtually.
So this list is people that chose you to meet, right?
The top two, the meetings with Louisville, the top two are people who reached out to us and asked to meet with us. And then, so we accepted their invitation. And we had not turned anyone down yet. Regular meetings with Louisville Metro and LMP stakeholders, that is part of our work with the community commitment. So that is part of what we have to do as your independent monitor under the community commitment. The in-service training was also an invitation from LMPD to come in, and it was offered in a collaborative spirit to come view that training early on in the process. The next 2 points on here, this first semi-annual report draft. So part of what we have to do as your independent, part of what we have to do as your independent monitor is to not just report back to these kinds of things, but actually issue a document, a formal report twice a year. It documents our activities, what we found, where we are in the process, and that's something that started when we had the contract signed by local metro government, which I believe was October 14th. So April 14th, that report is due. So we are already in the process with our team, all of our team, looking at what we've done so far, what pieces we need to put in there, developing, again, this is our first one. So what is our template for what that report will look like? And then that's going to be the basis for us moving forward. And it also will help us as we are doing our work in our teams, whether it's in person or remotely, so that as we do things, we're filling in that template. That's going to be our guide for how we report back formally to the community. And that will be a formal report that's issued back to local metro government. We will report to the Community Safety Commission, and we will certainly be sharing that as well with the community in a community meeting when we come out to the community. And then we are setting up the one-year monitoring goals. We heard about this already from Cherie around the monitoring. Well, it's monitoring protocol, but really the implementation plan. So under the community commitment, just to reiterate, the Global Metro Police Department takes the lead in developing the implementation plan. We respond, we work with local metro government, and then that will become the plan for year one. Councilwoman, please.
So, who is it that you're going to be meeting? Who holds you all accountable to make sure that you all, because I know that your time here, because you all are not stationed here, right? You go back and forth, right? So it's vital when you guys are here that your time is used wisely, and then while you're here, that it's efficient, that you all be efficient information. So I want to know who from Metro government that you're going to be talking to, getting that information. Is it the mayor's office? Is it government accountability? Do we know? Because
Let me start and then I'm going to hand it off to Cherie to lead on it, because she takes more of those meetings. But we have a regular cadence of meeting with the deputy mayor, who we work with most closely, and that's Shan Kemper. And so Shan Kemper, she's one of the deputy mayors. And she is the point person from the mayoral administration on the community commitment.
so you don't report to anybody from Metro government?
Let me try to help clear this up a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm trying to take over. So let me answer your question pretty good. We don't get, what we get is a list. Where we started from everybody and everybody. Some of the lists have come from just having these sessions, right? This is now our second meeting. The first one was in December was a listening session. We stayed back. We provide their email addresses. Some people have gone straight into the illegal website and said, we want to meet with you. How can we meet? When will we be available? Because we're remote, we're not here, we're not stationed here. We took the opportunity to say, how can we get a meeting to the calendar? We are not closed to meeting with anyone. This isn't a list of priorities. We're open to meeting to anyone that makes for the time. For instance, we reach back in and say, is it okay to meet with, are you available? And so that's the part where I was in the room saying, hey, I want to make sure, can we have a meeting? Can we reach out? Can I sit with you? Can we make for the time? Sometimes that is facilitated and assisted by others. Because they say, oh, I know some people. So this is really a process of sharing the bond, the old telephone tree. That's another reason why we ask people, who should we meet with? And coming to this meeting, Councilwoman, we're not showing up like we got it all figured out. We're not showing up like we know it all. Louisville is your town. We're here to uplift the community commitment and get to the ultimate goal of the change and transformation that you all have asked for through the community commitment. Who we meet with is simply based on who is shared with us to meet with. We're not prioritizing one over another. It's how fast can we get something amenable to our county to meet.
Well, and to piggyback off of what you're saying, you took people that, I think Shannon is a great contact for the mayor's office, right? But Metro Council, which is, and I think I said this with you all, hey, to Metro Council, you should heavily rely on your council members. Your council members are the tools to the community. They represent, right?
Yes.
So if you meet, for me, that would have been the recommendation for your starting point. Because every council person has community meetings like this. So for you all to be able to go in their spaces, in their community meetings, you know, and talk about why you're here and what's going on, you will be able to get out of our 26, then you would have been able to cover the entire city. For me, that would have been the starting point. And that would have been my suggestion. Because, I mean, I love Shan to death, but Shan probably wasn't affected by some of the things that a lot of different council members, communities have been affected by. And being that you all are not stationed here, and being that it's important that you all get the information that you need, not to say it's rushed, go for what you can have done. I think that will give you the pathway that you need to where you wouldn't have to wait on the invitation. You came here, you hit the ground running, and you got your person in your council program.
I appreciate,
It's just a suggestion.
and it's not a bad suggestion. We have meetings slated over the next 2 days with the council person. It is also about availability. We are open to meeting virtually. Some people want to meet when we're in town. So it is a mix of the things. So we do have some meetings scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday. I don't think, no, Thursday. I'm sorry, we'll fly out Thursday. We got here Monday evening, and we meet on Thursday. But we do have meetings scheduled for tomorrow. We welcome the opportunity to schedule a meeting. Again, when you shared that perspective when we came in December, we tried to heed that. We shared our fire of save the date. I think that there were some misses. We could have done some things differently or better. Open to the suggestion. When we set up the save the date flyer, what we were really looking for was interaction.
Well, I think respectfully, I think that you all should come in and be proactive. I don't think that you need to wait on the council person to come and say, hey, can I meet with you? I'm not waiting on that.
We're not waiting on that.
And how our 26.
We're not waiting on that.
I think the average between our 26 council members would schedule whether it's now or the next 3 months. They're going to schedule and get on the calendar.
We'll take that approach. We'll go ahead and take that approach. And we'll take I have your number now, and we'll take that approach and call you and meet with you. Are there any other questions? Q&A is fine.
Damn.
We don't want only questions. We just want to hear from you too, so you don't have to have questions. You can tell us. All right.
Okay, Q&A. I'm sorry. I thought Brian was sticking the Q&A portion. Is there anything else you'd like to share? I know we've kind of gone back and forth with you, but yes.
In the interest of time, and I appreciate your being here, appreciate the initiative to bring additional help to our community. I am coming from a place of guidance and inspiration by now late Reverend Jesse Jackson, who encouraged us to keep hope alive. These are difficult times and delicate situations that have to be addressed. And so I want to be very careful with how I engage with handling hopeless situations. That being said, my question is, can you share more about what you all have done in other places and how effective you have been so that we won't have unrealistic expectations of hope that you may not be able to provide?
Mr. Roosevelt. Roosevelt. I'll use this as a team dynamic. So Elefa has also a commitment to Minneapolis. We're also there. Prior to Minneapolis, Elefa was in Montgomery County, Maryland. So not all of this engagements have been, like for instance, the Minneapolis engagement is without the Department of Justice. They have a state settlement. So they have a third party. What is very unique about Louisville and this opportunity is that there is no Department of Justice as a part of this process. So it's going to be very difficult to compare situations because there is not a Department of Justice body in that way. However, and I want to anchor the statement because I don't want to give you some sense of something that does not exist. This is different. This is a different way of collaborative reform in the sense that parties have agreed to make change without the requirement to have somebody make the changes. So in terms of I can't tell anyone beyond my own self we are all here in this room, walking through this process together, for me, is what I'm holding on to hope, because this was a choice that you all made as a city. Because when the Department of Justice stripped out or walked away from the consent decree, the city of Louisville could have packed this tent, like some cities did. When the consent decrees were vacated, some cities said, okay, no Department of Justice, we're gonna move on. Business as usual, or whatever that business is for that city. The city of Louisville decided not to do that. It decided that however perfect or imperfect or not quite adequate or adequate, whatever way you look at this, the process in the way that it could go forward is going forward. So the city of Louisville did not say, we will not press forward to change, we will not press forward to reform. It is, and that's why we're in this process.
I hear you. I think you may be going down a different trail.
So
let me substitute the word impact. What impact have you all had, whatever you all had to work for? That's
it's a different dynamic, because I can talk about Baltimore, and though I hail from Baltimore, and I'm a Baltimore, and I come from that, during that process, I was a part of the lead monitor. I was working in the police department, having to respond to a report to the judge. So I've been in that seat. And when you look at Baltimore now, Baltimore is seeing record lows, still seeing some challenges within the government process of the community. So I'm not going to leave you with a dissuasion that there's perfection lying here. But in terms of the process of the consent decree and what it's looking for change within its police department, they're starting to see that change, and there's starting to be a different feedback from the community. And outcomes. They have a higher interest rate with their homicides, they're closing more cases. They have less complaints from the community about brutality and mishaps. They have had fewer challenges in the different areas of the consent decree call for. They have better technology to do their job. They have better facilities. The officers are being better trained, better equipped. They have a process for advancing within the organization. They have procedural justice and all of those things rolling out that people know what they're supposed to do. There's iterations. They're being evaluated and monitored, and they're having high scores in their evaluation. They have a dashboard that the public can clearly see where they are in the process. So all of those things are true. My hesitance in comparing is when I started the statement, meaning that they're under consent decree, right? But I just want to frame it the right way. And so that's the place that I can say that we have all been. And my colleagues have also been in other cities as well. So I'll let Lisa share her perspective.
Yeah, and I was just also, having started this work in Baltimore myself, also as an employee of the police department, but not a sworn police officer, just, person trying to write policy. One of the tangible ways that I have personally seen a difference from what things looked like in 2017 to what they look like now, or in the last couple of years, is watching body-worn camera footage as a part of auditing or internal reviews. Simply, this is a very generalized statement. I haven't monitored it, I haven't written any of the compliance assessments. But the vibe from watching body-worn camera of how officers are generally approaching members of the public versus how it looked 8 years ago is very dramatically different. For the most part, officers are much more calm. They're much more kind. I don't know, just like the basics of when we're teaching them to, when you're going up to people, you treat them like human beings, and that is conveyed through the way they communicate with people when you watch body cam. So that's the one thing I want to say about at least my experience in Baltimore. The other tangible example that I wanted to give from Minneapolis, very early on, relatively early on in their settlement agreement, again, the dynamic is different. They're under a state agreement. They've got the state government at the table. But we all know what has been going on in Minneapolis over the last several months. I personally, as a member of the team that monitors Minneapolis, feel a high degree of thanks and relief that just a couple months before the federal government came in and this surge started happening and all these things were going on with the federal agents, every single police officer at MPD was trained on the new use of force policies under the state settlement agreement. And because of that, within just a couple of months before this whole thing blew up in Minneapolis, at least the local Minneapolis Police Department had fresh on their minds, these are our new rules of engagement on force, this is how to prioritize de-escalation, and generally speaking, the review and feeling of the community, of course, was frustration with the police department because they wanted them to be intervening between the feds, but there weren't a lot of concerns about NPD participating inappropriately, and so that is simply one concrete thing that I personally have felt a great deal of relief about, given the recent climate there. And I didn't know.
I wanted to pause because I said it a little earlier that our additional colleague, Jason Armstrong, had entered the room. He was in another opportunity today. And I wanted you to introduce yourself. We'll be more than Q&A. And we'll still ask a question about any solid places like the impact of where we've been and this process has an impact. And this process has an impact on what we've seen from this process.
Good evening. My name is Jason Armstrong. I'm part of the Elefa team. My previous background and experience, I'm a retired police chief. Most notably, I was the police chief in Ferguson, Missouri. I was the chief in Ferguson leading through all of our specific reform and implementation in 2020. When you all had the incident here and we had the incident in Minneapolis and everything erupted there. I was asked the exact same questions earlier today. So part of what my role is on this team in leading some of the paragraphs, some of the sections of the community defense. I also serve as the officer liaison for the monitoring team to LMPD. And I was out on ride-alongs today. I'm out meeting and speaking with some of the officers in the department. And I was asked that very question, have I seen any progress from this process previously? And I'll share the exact same example that I shared with the officer that I was talking to earlier. So I would assume that most people in this room are familiar with the name Mike Brown Jr. and what happened in Ferguson in 2014. How many of y'all know the name of the 18-year-old that was shot and killed by Ferguson Police Department in 2023? How many of y'all know that there was an 18-year-old shot and killed by the Ferguson Police Department in 2023? I got one hand up. Here's why you didn't hear about that and why it didn't make all of the national news. It's because of the work that we did and reforms there before that incident ever happened. One of the policies that I had to implement that was a part of our reform efforts while I was the chief, they had to deal with our body-worn camera policy. And in most agencies across the country, when you deal with body-worn cameras, the number one question that comes up inside the department is how long is the pre-record feature going to be set for? I see heads nodding over there. That's normally a big fight. And if you're not familiar with what happens on body cameras, when you press the button to record, most cameras have the ability to pre-record for a set duration of time before you press the button. But there are a lot of logistics that goes into how long you set that up for, because that's recorded time, bandwidth, and all of the things. And one of the things that we had to implement was putting in a set period amount of time that we wanted the pre-record features to record. So fast forward years later after we fired on that policy, and I can't remember if we landed on 90 seconds or 120 seconds. But it was well over a minute and a half that we put in. Fast forward to this incident, an officer is at a gas station in the middle of the night getting a snack, comes out, hears gunshots very close to him. He thinks he's being shot at. He drops down, continues to hear the gunfire, he runs to the gunfire, and he encounters two individuals in a car, and one is shooting at the other. Third, in defense of the individual's life that's being shot at, discharges his firearm at the individual that is shooting at the other. After he shoots this individual, he realizes that he had never activated his body because it happened that fast. He presses the record button. And because of the work that we did years earlier in arguing and navigating that process of how much time we wanted the pre-record feature to be, that entire incident was captured on body camera. And the process of the community members that were to be called in because they had a critical incident, and the process that was put in place, everybody could see exactly what happened. And there was no guessing, there was no, well, just believe me because I'm saying this. The process proved true that evening, that day, on what this looks like when we deal in a world and environment where the worst of the worst could happen at any given moment. And we can't capture every single thing, every time. So that's the example that I shared earlier today, because that is the number one example that I've had in my experience, and what this looks like, and how you can have an impact in going through these things, going through this process. And sometimes maybe years before you see some of these examples, but they have had it since I've seen it.
Thank you, Jason. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
When you have your gatherings with the police department, do they ever say how the community needs to step up?
So a lot of our conversations to this point have largely, to get the question, do the police, when we meet with the police, are they ever asking the question, how does the community step up? We have not quite gotten to that place, because a lot of our content has really been around how we're going to engage around the process and the policy and the training and the reviews. There's been a lot of that in the conversation in the formal sense. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this ain't about the community stepping up. This is about, right?
I'm not about a meeting like that with community and LFPDs.
Right.
They didn't say someone in the community is more responsible for the kids in that area, and they need to step up as well.
Right. I understand what you're saying, but that's for community. I think the council versus, the president, but I think this is more than about LFPD and the community and reform.
What I already asked, what doesn't come up in conversation in terms of whether or not the community is just so far behind helping out that there's not going to be
Well, I think what it is it's not that the community is so far behind. I think it's just that a lot of the community don't trust some LPD. And how can you, so that's what they're here for, so we can try to, see out.
Totally get that.
Right.
All I'm trying to find out is on that part of their conversation.
Oh, okay. So you're asking me on my favor to hold the community accountable. Right, but asking them to step up is holding them accountable. Same thing. They're not here to hold. Can we hear me?
No, not at all.
Right.
Thank you so much. We have about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure everybody, I saw another hand. Did I answer your question, sir? Did I cover your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
In regard to the decree, it was not that the city did roll that decree. The word came from the White House that they didn't have to abide by that. So it wasn't the city that did roll.
No, ma'am, I did not say that. I said when the federal government vacated the consent decree. I'm not suggesting that you didn't want it. I'm simply saying that the federal government, with the Department of Justice, changed administration. They decided they were not going to create a consent decree. Yes, ma'am. I'm not suggesting that the city of Louisville didn't want it. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. Do I have any more questions? Any more questions? Yes, sir.
So, you all answered this question. You all answered that gentleman's question. You got it all fired up, really presented who you are and what you're doing. That, to me, that should have been the bulk of your presentation. When I'm sitting here watching the presentation you gave, I'm saying, this really looks like this is just some shiny chrome that's being slapped on the automobile. But when you gave your answer, you're saying, no, you're not just putting some chrome on, you're actually giving an overhaul to the engine, upgrading everything, really trying to get to it so it doesn't leak oil, it doesn't burn oil, that sort of thing. So I would encourage you to move along those
that, and we'll take that into account when we present again. Absolutely. Great. Yes, sir. What specific thing have we been working on, and what been going on? And the getting to know each other is about the process. The implementation plan, the monitoring protocols, reviewing of policy, and observing of training.
So nothing from community and kids, so nothing community concern.
So that's why we're asking to meet, right? That's why we want to come out. So let me back up a little bit. Answering your question, I don't want to. In answering your question, I don't want to overlook. We're at the beginning, right? So we're at the beginning of this. When we were here in December, we walked around to meet, talk to people, introduce who we are, why we're here. So we've been out in different communities. Is that the total sum? No. So we're So community has shared feedback of experiences, things that they've dealt with over time, while they have, and I'm not saying this is all represents everyone's opinion, I'm just sharing generally what we have. Different things like distrust, what has happened, some of the atrocities that have occurred. We have heard a litany of swath of what has happened in different places. So we're in the policy phase of it. That is not getting started. So before the police department trains, I don't want you to leave not understanding. And I want to be clear as I possibly can, because I want you to at least understand what I'm trying to convey. So before we get to outcomes, our responsibility is to start with the policy. And from the policy, move to the training. The training moved to the evaluation, as in monitor what they're doing. So what you're asking me is the outcome of what occurs, like as in like what's happening. If I'm trying to kind of capture it this way, I'm not trying to quite sure what you're saying. When we hear the atrocities of community, what that goes back to in an evaluation process is poor training, poor supervision, poor policy, poor performance. So we have to start there. So when we hear things that happen in the street, it starts over here. It starts with a bad policy, or a policy that's lacking, or a policy that's not understood, readable, can't execute it, not quite up to date with the standards. It starts with the policy. So that's where we start. And in tandem, we meet. So we can hear your voice. We can hear your experiences. We can hear what's happened, where it's happened. We can learn the history. So then while we're going through these processes, we can bear in mind everything, say your first name, Mr. Deveron's going to tell me, so that when we're going right along, when we're having meetings, that we're looking to see, do we still see the essence of that as we move through the process? Does that make sense? I'm not suggesting that my like it, but does it make sense? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm responding and bringing clarity to it. I can't give you time. She said, you're saying we're looking at 18 months before we see something different. Because they can have a policy change that can make impact sooner. Because when you look at the community commitment, it goes from one extreme to the next. It goes and speaks about wellness, it speaks about social justice, it speaks about different things, community engagement, it just speaks about a swath of different things. So you could see something different in another area. I wouldn't want to tell you have to wait 18 months to see it. That wouldn't be fair to the process or any of the people involved. But it's a complex dynamic because everything we're discussing is a complex problem. I'm sorry, Jason.
All right, just real quick. One thing to just keep in mind in going through a process like this is
doing the work of reform, whether you are the consent decree like I was in Ferguson, or the community commitment of what you all have here in Louisville, that 100% doesn't address the issues of a community. And it's not designed to address 100% of the issues of the community. And so people still have to be at the tables, people still have to be engaged and involved in addressing things that are happening in real time. You know, with this process, we will have, LMPD will develop an implementation plan of what they're going to be working on year one. Because you have to start somewhere, you can't do all of it all at one time. And so that's going to drive largely the work on this side of things. But if there are things that are going on in the community and people are being impacted, like, the community still has to show up and be a part of that discussion and what engagement with LMPD looks like to make sure that you all are not seeing, you know, some of the things of the past and that things are brought to the forefront of what's happening and what's going on. And that's always going to be a continual effort in that. And so, you know, I had to deal with this, you know, previously. The consent decree is this, and you all, you know, terminology, the community commitment is this. We're experiencing these things in the community. I have to pay just as much attention to both of those dynamics and be working on all of it all at the same time, because it all is important and it all deserves, you know, just all of the resources that LMPD and the local government has to go at. I'll give it to.
Do we have any more questions? We want to be respectful of our close time. I know they have to close the facility at 8. We have to clean up, but I want to make sure that we answer your questions. So these are the public meetings, all of the public to include LMPD, LMG, everyone is welcome to attend. I know that they host their own community meetings. I'm not 100% sure what they're talking about at their community meetings. I know that they also host their community meetings. Yes, sir.
I want to know when you're coming back, so I can see what's going on.
The week of April the 13th.
Did you say that's on the website somewhere?
No, it's not up because it's a part of this presentation. And after we close everything out, but feel free, please. And again, we do not have to
I would just encourage people not to wait until April.
I was about to say that.
Because there is a community safety commission that is functioning now, that this group interfaces with. I know there's members here that could answer your questions. There's a group called the People's Consent Decree Coalition that are working in the city to help people understand. We've been doing education sessions about what is the community commitment and what does it involve. And I would just add one other thing. To confirm for me that the structure of who you've been working with in the government is set up in the commitment and the council is not in that commitment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
But that has no bearing on who we meet with, who we partner with, and who we work with.
Yes.
I just want to be clear.
Right, so you don't have their mandate to do that. And like I think they invited you to one of their meetings, right? They got an oversight, invited you. So, yeah, I just wanted people to understand that. It wasn't really leaving the council out.
It's okay. I am going to take the suggestion of Councilwoman Hall.
Yes,
and I'm going to hold it with, because we don't want to delay.
No, but one thing that I think, I think this gentleman up here is saying, like, your deliverance, when you set the stage, your deliverance.
Okay, that's okay.
Right. When, when you read the audience that you have, I mean, I'm aware that it's like older people, in here, no disrespect, I think y'all. But I'm saying, like, you have to, you gotta keep, I think it's kind of, that, your deliverance in the message that you start off with, it sets the tone for the meeting and it goes in sync. I think that that's where a lot of people probably get lost. So just moving forward in the meetings, I think, just that deliverance on why you all are here, who you all are, and what your goals are. You see that, and then go straight into things that can help you all. I don't know if y'all taking notes. I can see you guys writing things back down. I don't know if somebody else is heard. Maybe you are. I'm talking about somebody, right? Taking notes, writing things down, some of the people said. I'm just thinking things just for the next meeting because, you know, maybe nobody in this room may have been affected by anything, not to say that they wasn't, but when you go to another district, man, you're gonna have people coming that's really, really been affected. And they're not, you have to be able to hold their attention span and come straight in. Even if you kind of really don't know, you gotta be like, well, whether it's this is our goals. What can you all give us so we can take back and come up with a plan? One, because you're already at a disadvantage because you're not stationary. Right? So when you come here, you gotta automatically be ready like, okay, boom, 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 boom. One, you guys are getting paid to come here to do this, right? And then two, you don't have feedback here from the community that's working when you're not here. Right? So that's just enough for this. But we don't need to go one-on-one so the next meeting may not be this now. And I'm only saying that because what happens when you have somebody that's had a lot of those experiences, right? That has happened previously, that ain't, you know, you gotta know how to be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? They gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. And I just don't want you all to be ready before that, wherever the next meeting is going to be. So do y'all know the location for those three yet?
So we don't know the location because we want to wait till we kind of look at the map and look at where we should be after we have the conversation. So we'll announce where.
So how does the community find out the location? And I noticed that it didn't go out to all the community members. I think I got it from the administration, but I haven't asked them. Right? That should just be out. I think that should be a given. Whether it's paper, news, or whatever, that information from our these meetings, it shouldn't be hard to identify where the next three of those meetings should be. That should be a given. So I mean, it's just a suggestion.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Hollins. And with that, we're going to wrap. Because I know we have to, like I said, clean up their space, and we appreciate all of your presence tonight. We appreciate the conversation. This is what it's about. We don't all have to sing one harmonious note. We can disagree in a meeting or have a robust conversation because that's how we get to understanding. It is all right. It is already all right. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate all of your suggestions and recommendations. We take them to heart. And so we look forward to seeing you, but please walk away from this knowing two things. We appreciate you, and you do not have to wait until we're back in town and able to engage with us. That's why we ask you to leave your email address so you can add that information on and things can come straight into you. So if you have not signed in before you leave, please sign in and share your email address, and we welcome the opportunity to engage with you as community members and any entities that you may represent. Thank you, have a safe, blessed evening, and we are so appreciative of you. Thank you.
I'm gonna do what my granddaddy taught me to do. And stand up for family. And fight back. But you've been in this perspective for too long.
They don't expect that. We're not gonna have our kids marching. This is it.
Once and for all!
Justice for Patrick! Justice for Patrick! Justice for Patrick!
As a black man, I stand up for black women.
I don't want to say another motherfucking name! Kanye Jordan! 400 years later, not a damn thing changed!
I stand up for black women because it's what I'm supposed to do.
It's all one fight. The same people that suppress the vote, they'll suppress your living rate.
It's standing up for freedom, a freedom that knows action, a love that is in action.
Enough is enough!
I'm not sleeping and I'm not done until we get justice.
Ain't no curling, people don't stop. What's got to go? Hey, hey! Oh, oh! Let's go to what's got to go! Why is everybody, why is the police fighting against us, but they're supposed to be helping us? That doesn't make sense. If what we don't do, then it don't get done. That's what I'm hearing.
Through every note, every performance, the arts connect us. The arts connect us through joy and through awe, bridging cultures and generations. From intimate theaters to the grandest stages, the arts bring us together, reminding us that we're never truly alone. When we experience the arts, we experience each other. Kentucky Performing Arts. The arts connect us.